game will always be successful if you cater to every single audience. I'm sure even the Battlefield devs would agree with me over some of y'all in the comment section below.
First off, what the fuck is that guy talking about? That's just completely wrong. And later in this video, I'm going to cite a perfect example of how catering to a wider audience completely killed a once beloved game. And secondly, why the hell do content creators like Swag have a legion of fans? It's insane to me, but that's a topic for another video. So when I was originally writing the script for this video, I was going to talk about entitlement from gamers and how they want games to cater to exactly what they want. But then I wrote 4 pages just on the difficulty debate in games, which is a hot button issue right now thanks to the release of Silksong. So then I was just going to make a video simply about difficulty. But you know what? The script ballooned to 10 pages now, and I don't care. We're going to talk about it all. This really all stems from a few tweets that I saw recently. One was from a creator named Skitty Bitty, who has since privated the tweet. Therefore, unfortunately I can't show the video, but I do have this screenshot. Basically, it's just them saying that hard games should have difficulty options to be more accessible to a wider audience of people. And in this video, I'll be debunking why no, not all games need to be playable for every skill of player. The tweet gained a lot of traction and they were probably getting a lot of hate, hence why they removed the tweet or privated it or something. There were many quote tweets that also brought up good arguments, which I'll get to in a bit, but first, I want to talk about the other entitled opinions. The other tweets that inspired this video were recently from tryhard FPS gamers who were crying and whining about Battlefield 6 nerfing their movement abilities. They claim that anyone in favor of nerfing movement options is too stupid to understand the ramifications that this will have on the game. Ender's FPS is a diehard Battlefield player, but he's also quite elitist with his takes. The arguments that he and other movement players make are just that it will promote camping and laning, as if people weren't already doing that when the movement was better. But for this video, I don't really care one way or another if Battlefield 6 has hyper insane movement, or is as slow and precise as CSGO. The issue here is players trying to dictate how a game should be made, rather than letting the developers of the game exercise their creative freedom to make the game that they want to make. If they wanted to have dolphin dives and omni movement and all that stuff that movement fiends find fun, fine, they can do that. The battle dads will migrate to a different shooter that isn't that. And if they want to make it slow and campy and grounded, that's also fine. The spastic movement kids can go find some other game to sprint around in. It's funny, people argue that if they remove the movement, it still isn't a military sim. Like, who cares? Maybe they want to be a middle ground. Maybe they just want to incorporate aspects that they enjoy and design it in the way that they think is the most fun. Fun is completely subjective, but the developers seem to be making it how they think it is fun. And chances are, lots of people will agree. I put 30 hours into the Battlefield 6 beta, and I loved it. I'm hyped to play more of it, and I had all but given up on the genre at this point thanks to how Call of Duty has neutered a franchise that I used to enjoy. The beauty of games is that there is a whole host of genres to cater to a wide array of different players. And the games that become popular, or at least renowned and may garner a cult fandom, are games that know what they are and they do it very well. So in this video, we'll be dissecting why players need to just accept that a game isn't their cup of tea and move the hell on and play something that they actually do enjoy, rather than trying to strip away what makes a game great to another audience of people so that it appeals to the things that they like and prefer. So without further ado, let's jump into it. First, let's define entitlement so that we're all on the same page. Merriam-Webster defines it as belief that one is deserving or entitled to certain privileges. So for the Silksong is Too Hard crowd, they feel that they are entitled to enjoy the story and gameplay of Silksong without having to put up with the difficulty of the game. And for the movement aficionados, they think that every FPS online multiplayer game needs to incorporate crazy movement tech, otherwise there's no skill gap and no way to show off skill expression. We'll start with the difficulty people, because the case of throwing in an easy mode is far more nuanced than people pretend it is. So the main inspiration for this topic is the much talked about difficulty of Hollow Knight's Silksong. Is it too difficult? Is it too easy? Is it just right? My argument is it's just right because it's what the designers intended. For context, I've 100%ed the game and I beat the game on Steel Soul and got the speedrun achievement, but I first dove into Hollow Knight just a month ago, so I'm pretty new to the franchise. I certainly had my struggles, I streamed all my playthroughs, and there were times where I was stuck at a spot for over an hour, so it's not like I'm some super gamer. I struggled, but there's satisfaction in that struggle, of seeing yourself improve. But as I said, I think the difficulty is just right because Team Cherry made the exact game that they wanted to make. Therefore, it's fine. And that's not to say that I agree with every design choice they've made. And yes, I know they nerfed Sister Splinter and Morwing a bit, but I've replayed the game since the nerfs, and I think they still offer a decent challenge. I think the mindset here with nerfing them was to try and help ease players into the game a little more slowly, which I think is a good call. Do I think these bosses are super hard? No. But I do think that you encounter them pretty early on, so it can be a very quick, unexpected roadblock for new fans to the game and potentially new fans to the Souls-like genre in general. And yes, Silksong is a Souls-like, but that's a topic for another video. But with Silksong, it generated so much hype and buzz that naturally people wanted to hop on the bandwagon and see what all the fuss was about. I was literally one of those people. As I said, I didn't play Hollow Knight until Silksong got its release date. That was always my plan, but I didn't think they were going to announce it and then drop it 2 weeks later, but I did want to play it before the much anticipated sequel. I tried it out and I was delighted by literally everything about that game. It was so fun in fact that I made a review, and it's probably one of my favorite videos I've ever made, mostly because I just love that game so much. So it was fun to just gush about a game that I enjoyed on so many levels. And one of those fundamental levels is the difficulty of it. I played Sekiro for the first time this past spring, and that is a game that made me fall in love with the Souls-like genre. It was very punishing, and I died a ton. Multiple bosses took me over an hour to clear, but the growth that I achieved in my playthroughs was extremely satisfying. My first clear took over 50 hours, and by my fourth clear, I beat the entire game in a 5-hour stream. The difficulty from the game is core to the experience. Here's a quote from the president of From Software, who are the creators of Sekiro and the Dark Souls games, and the studio who pioneered the Souls-like genre. Miyazaki says, turning down the difficulty in order to appeal to everyone wasn't the right approach for the game. Quote, if we really wanted the whole world to play the game, we could just crank the difficulty down more and more, but that wasn't the right approach. Had we taken that approach, I don't think the game would have done what it did, because the sense of achievement that players gain from overcoming these hurdles is such a fundamental part of the experience. Turning down difficulty would strip the game of that joy, which in my eyes would break the game itself. Listen, I absolutely love that philosophy. The people at From Software, starting with their leader, understand the design ethos that goes into the games that they're making. Games are art. In fact, I think they're the highest form of art. They are a blend of the storytelling of novels or long TV series, the cinematics of high-budget movies, musical scores that are iconic and can add to the moment of a boss fight or the vibe of an area, and they are also interactive thanks to gameplay. And gameplay is a core tenet to any video game. In fact, for me, it's the most important of all. I love a good story game every now and then, but to me, gameplay trumps pretty much all else. So many people come back time and time again to a game like Destiny 2 just because of the gameplay and the shooting, because it just feels really good, even if the rest of the game leaves a lot to be desired. But to bring it back around to the difficulty debate, the difficulty of your game can be a sign of expression. You design games based around a certain challenge that you, as the game's creator, want to inflict on the player. It's your way of flexing your creative genius. You know that by intentionally designing something to be difficult, that you're asking a lot of the player to overcome that challenge. You know the player is going to get extremely frustrated. Hell, in Team Cherry's case, they specifically design certain things to piss off the player. It may even drive some people to quit the game altogether. But this is a risk that they take because you also know that when they do overcome that challenge, it will be satisfying and rewarding to the player. Or just a sense of relief that it's over. But regardless, it will invoke a response, invoke emotion, a feeling. It's baked into the fabric of the game. And this is how you create meaningful games. This is how you get a Claire Obscure Expedition 33 and a Hollow Knight. Games that were more niche but grew a massive cult following because they are so well done that they eventually just forced their way to becoming mainstream. Because they're that good. They have such a strong identity that it resonates greatly with people who truly appreciate what the game has to offer. People think that it is super easy to just turn on a difficulty setting, but no, there's a lot more to it than that. I'm no game developer, but I've played a lot of games and I am sure it is a hell of a lot of work, because when games get it wrong, it's blatantly apparent. Some games make difficulty options, but when you play on the higher difficulty, you see that the new option is just that the enemies are giant bullet sponges and you deal piss poor damage, or you take more damage, or both. But this, by and large, is lazy game design, and it feels awful when implemented poorly. It isn't fun or engaging, it's just slow and tedious. It's not challenging mechanically, just challenging mentally because you're bored out of your mind beating on a meat shield for 15 minutes. The battle is attrition from fighting off the boredom. Aside from the true final boss in Silksong, I don't think a single fight lasts more than 5 minutes. But those fights are high action, there's a lot going on. They are difficult mechanically, not because the boss can just withstand a lot of hits. I for one would much rather play a game with one difficulty option, even if it's brutally difficult, but it's designed with care in every aspect so that the difficulty feels fun and engaging and not boring and unfair. Like they just cranked up the health pools but didn't make the enemy movesets any different, or the attack patterns quicker, or the terrain more challenging, or whatever other way that designers can add difficulty into their game in a fun way and not an obnoxious way. By screaming and demanding for an easier difficulty, you just sound entitled. This would force the creators of the game to make a game that is designed to be accessible to more people instead of designing the game that they want to make. One reason I love the Hollow Knight universe is it is so authentic in every single aspect of its creation. Everything in the entire game feels intentional and thought out. They have left no stone unturned. Therefore, as you play through the game, you can appreciate all the time and attention to detail that went into every corner of the world. It all comes together perfectly because every aspect was meticulously thought out. And this is another aspect that is hugely overlooked from the make an easy mode crowd. If you do try to do that for a game like Hollow Knight Silksong, then what the hell are you going to do in Mount Fae? The traversal to get the Fade-On Cloak, aka the double jump, is very demanding. I made a guide on how to get this on my other channel and it has over 40,000 views, so obviously some people need help with it. So on easy mode, how do they redesign that? Do they take the spikes away in that level? Obviously they would have to remove the cold penalty that depletes your health because that demands that you go through this traversal very quickly so that you don't freeze to death. But if they do all this, that is dev time being taken away from making more cool shit for the game and being put into things they already created, but are now watering down to cater to a lesser skilled audience. And it's not even necessarily lesser skilled, it's just a less willing audience. I'm not some naturally gifted gamer. Everything I've achieved in gaming has come through a desire to improve and get better because I simply enjoyed the game that I was playing so much. I liked the game so much that I just wanted to keep playing and improve my skills. I used to solo Grandmaster Nightfalls in Destiny 2 and they got easier over time, but back in the day it was super hard to do. But I was able to do it through grit and determination, and I'm confident that if people really want to enjoy Silksong for what it has to offer, then they will go through that high barrier to entry to play it. And if they don't, then they just simply don't want to. And let me be clear, there is nothing wrong with that. At all. No one is forcing people to play and enjoy these games. If they aren't for you, that's totally fine. Play something that you enjoy. There's a great tweet by Hyperfist making this exact point. To summarize the thread, they basically say, if they really cared about Silksong, they would put in the time and practice to learn the boss moves and beat it. And this is so true. I've made videos on every boss in the game, and some have over 100,000 views. So clearly some people care enough to look up a guide and practice and overcome it. But the people that just say, no, it's too hard, I can't do this, then that game just isn't appealing enough to them. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But Team Cherry doesn't have to cater their game to those people. The game shut down every major online game store for fuck's sakes. I don't think they need to change the formula. And before you jump in the comment section and call me an elitist gatekeeper, I've been on the other side of the debate before. In 2019, when Sekiro won Game of the Year, I thought, oh cool, I should check that game out. This was well before the time where I was engaged with the gaming sphere or YouTube or any of that. I had just heard from friends that I played Destiny with that Sekiro was good, so I bought it. The game doesn't hold your hand at all. I had no clue where I was going or what I was doing. I stuck it out for a while and kept dying to the first boss that you have to fight to learn the Makiri counter. I was maybe 5 hours in at that point and had got through a couple of the early game bosses, but that's where I gave up. And that boss is a crucial stepping stone for the rest of the game, as you will have to Makiri many other enemies in your playthrough. Of course, I didn't know this at the time. I just thought it was too punishing, so I left. I didn't complain on the internet and say the game needed to make an easy mode though. I just stopped playing and went back to Destiny 2, which was a game I enjoyed more at the time and I was far better at. Fast forward 6 years, I had done all I cared to do in D2 and wanted to play other games. I went back to Sekiro, and this time I was determined to learn the game and try and beat it. Mind you, I had no idea if I was nearly good enough. I certainly wasn't in 2019 when I was in my 20s. So learning a tough game when I'm now in my 30s with slower reflexes would be no easy task. But you know what? I did it. Not because I somehow magically was a horrible gamer in 2019 and became a god gamer in 2025. No, because I simply was more determined this next time around. I put the time in to learn how the game and bosses work. And eventually, I beat them all, multiple times. I did 5 playthroughs and platinumed the game. Again, all because I cared to step up to the plate and brute force my way through the game, to overcome the obstacles that FromSoft had introduced, and it was incredibly satisfying. The thread then goes on to say that games are viewed as content to be consumed and nothing more. They are there to complete a checklist, and I think this is extremely true. We'll touch on this again when we get to the Battlefield people, but for now, I think so many people just want to be involved in the hype wave surrounding Silksong and say that they played it and beat it, even if that type of genre has never appealed to them. And again, I'm all for people trying new genres. It's something that I'm trying to actively do more myself, especially after Hollow Knight and Clair Obscur have really opened my eyes to some genres that I've ignored for a while. But for every person like me who becomes an immediate fan, there is a person who doesn't care for the game. But again, that's fine. They don't have to play it. But instead, a small vocal minority wants to get on the internet and complain it's too hard or needs to change XYZ. And listen, some complaints are valid criticism. I just released my Silksong review, and I don't like everything that the game does either. I hate that contact damage from a boss takes 2 masks of health. I think it's overly punishing for simply standing in the wrong place. But no game is going to be perfect and align with every single thing that you like, and that's okay. But the good far outweighs the bad. But for the people who think it is too difficult, don't play then. But please just move on and don't say that the game needs to be easier, or needs to do this, or needs to do that. Because the game is designed how the developers wanted it to be, and you can either play it for what it is or move on. It does not need to cater to you. For the last month, I've raved to my fiance basically every night about how amazing Hollow Knight or Silksong is. I showed her Mila and Sherma and some of my favorite NPCs or cool boss fights. I played the freaking Green Path OST to her in bed one night, but I've told her, sorry honey, this game is just too hard for you, and she's fine with that. She's a very casual gamer, who actually came to love Astrobot, and that was the first game she's ever played solo. Before that, her and I played 2 Mario platformers on the Switch together, and we played It Takes Two and Split Fiction. That is her entire game history, but I was so proud of her when she unlocked every bot in Astrobot. I beat the game in like 20 hours or so, and obviously she took a lot longer, but you know what? She fucking did it. Why? Because she just loves that game, and I was so damn proud of her. Some of those levels gave me a bit of trouble, and I've been playing platformers since I could hold a controller. So for her to overcome some of those challenges was awesome to see. Did she need an easier mode for Astrobot so she could enjoy the game? No. The developers made the game that they wanted to make and made it approachable for newer gamers and kids. But they included some tough challenges for people like me to enjoy, and people like my fiance to grow into, to test and push themselves to overcome. And she was so happy when she beat it. And I could not have been more happy for her. Again, I was just so proud. And to clarify, I said Hollow Knight is too tough for her, but that isn't even totally true. I just know that she's the type of person that gets frustrated with tough things in video games, so she would not like this. But if she was that type of person to really enjoy a challenge in a game, then I know that she could grow and improve and beat the game eventually. But it would take a lot of effort. Effort she likely isn't willing to put in. And again, that's okay. And lastly, if you're still insistent that Silksong needs to be easier, then just go download a mod. You paid for the game, do what you want. But for me, I enjoy playing the games the way the artists intended. And that is not to say that I hate difficulty options. I play God of War games on the regular difficulty, which in the recent ones is called Give Me Balance. You also have Give Me Story and Give Me Grace, and they're there for people who want an even easier experience. And then you have Give Me No Mercy and Give Me God of War, which are there for the hardcores. And I think it's great that people can tailor the game to match the experience that they want to play it on. I've played every God of War game ever made, and I think the stories are amazing. So I'm happy that there's an option for friends of mine who aren't gamers that they can enjoy such an amazing story and cool boss fights and puzzles. The God of War games are incredible, so the more people that can play them, the better. Me, I like enjoying the story of the game while having engaging combat, but I don't like to be stuck for hours, so I choose the middle of the road. That's just how I like to play God of War. I've also platinumed Sekiro, so clearly I don't mind a challenge, but I know that going in. I know the game is going to kick my teeth in from time to time, but that is the experience that I signed up for. I bought the game to feel that challenge, not for the story, though the story is also very good in Sekiro, but you do have to dig for it. But again, not every game is made for everyone, and that's fine. In fact, it's those reasons that people love From Software games. A huge reason they become so popular, and now there's all these copycats, is because of that brutal challenge. People enjoy overcoming a difficult challenge. And by knowing that everyone beat it on that same difficulty, they can bond over that experience. They know what that person went through. And I know this because I streamed Sekiro and Hollow Knight, and my chat laughed and reminisced about the first time they came up against a roadblock for a boss that was causing me trouble. It's what makes the experience so memorable. The most memorable boss fight for me from the recent God of Wars is the final Valkyrie in each game, because it's so difficult. They combine the movesets of all the other Valkyries into one, so it forces you to be on your toes and to remember all of your training that got you to this point. It makes for a very fun and dynamic, but ultimately difficult boss fight. But it is that exact same difficulty that makes it so rewarding. Spoiler warning for Clair Obscur in 3, 2, 1. Clair Obscur, I played that on the regular difficulty, and I still spent like 4 hours on the true final boss, Simon. It's one of the best boss fights I've ever played through. I have goosebumps typing this, thinking about the epic music in that fight.
Spicy. The fun begins.
The fight was hard as hell, but man was it satisfying when I beat it. Learning that moveset made me feel like a badass. But it wouldn't hit the same if you could just beat it on a super easy difficulty, where he falls over before he can even get attacks in. Hell, I beat it a second time after I leveled up my characters, and that even felt easier, but it was still a challenge. No, if you say you beat Simon and Clair Obscur, it means you overcame a damn hard boss.
Let's go.
But Sandfall doesn't need to nerf that boss for players to enjoy the game. It's not part of the main story, and again, not everything in every game has to be beatable by everyone. I haven't even beaten Pantheon 5 in Hollow Knight. I stopped at 4 due to time. I will attempt it one day in the future, but as far as all bindings, there's no way in hell I will do that. But the developers don't have to nerf the difficulty of that particular challenge so that I can feel like I'm some god gamer and say, I beat the hardest challenge the game has to offer. That option is there for the people who want it, and I know my limitations. But what is cool with these hard games is if you replay them and then face the bosses that were once a roadblock for you, and then you smoke them, it also serves to show you in real time how far that you've come and how much you've grown as a player. I was thrilled when I beat Ganishiro at the start of Sekiro on my third playthrough. I was like, hell yeah, that guy smoked my ass the first time I faced him, and now I bested him, even though the fucker still cut my hand off. But again, if the game were easy, or I chose to play it on an easy difficulty, I wouldn't have gotten my ass whipped the first time. Therefore, I never would have felt the satisfaction of besting him in a future playthrough when I was much better at the game. All these little moments help add to the mystique of a game. When I did my Steel Soul run of Silksong, I had the exact same feeling. Last Judge and Widow felt like they were moving in slow motion compared to the first time that I fought them. Same with the final boss of Sekiro. When I beat him for the second time, it felt so much easier. Before, I was reacting, but the next time, I was anticipating. If you don't like hard games, that's completely fine. I don't particularly like horror games, but I'm not asking the creators of Resident Evil Requiem or Silent Hill F to make the game less scary so that I can play it because I want to enjoy the story. The entire design of the game is to scare you, to put you on edge, to make you feel suspense. Just like the design of Souls-like games is to challenge you. It's all part of the equation that is baked into the DNA of the game. I'm just happy that those horror games exist for the people who like them. Speaking of challenge, Team Cherry also implemented insane achievements like Speedrun and Steel Soul. One is asking the player to beat the game in under 5 hours, and the other demands that you beat the game without dying once. I thought these challenges were nigh impossible for a player like me, but lo and behold, I actually accomplished them. Not because I'm some amazing gamer, but simply because I cared enough to put the work in and try, because I just love the game that much. But if this was an achievement that you could do on an easy mode, it would completely diminish the accomplishment. So much so that I probably wouldn't have even bothered with it. So sure, you can sit here and say it needs difficulty options so other players can enjoy the game, but no, it doesn't. I hated The Last of Us Part 2, I thought the story was fucking ass, but some people love it, and it's that divisiveness that causes people to also love other pieces of media, because it invokes a feeling, just as getting your ass beat in a hard game does. So let them stay difficult, force players to get good. If they want to enjoy certain parts of your game, then they have to put up with the things that they don't necessarily enjoy. And if that is too much to ask, then that game is simply not for them, and that's fine. When you try to cater to everyone, you end up pleasing no one. Hollow Knight is a cult classic for many valid reasons, but a core tenet is its difficulty and the somewhat high barrier to entry. Not that it's unfair or anything, the game challenges you, but you can do so many things to overlevel certain encounters, but you do need a basic skill set, and if you don't have that, then either practice and get good enough or simply play another game. It's just weird how gamers want games to change around their desires, but you don't see the same sentiment expressed in other forms of art. Like, if I went to an art museum and I was like, sure, that piece is cool, but I wish they used this color, and instead of being abstract, I wish it was a painting of a person's face. Like, okay, then go to a different museum with an art style that you enjoy. Same with books. Harry Potter is insanely popular, but if someone is out there who hates magic and wizardry, they are simply not going to read those books. They aren't going to demand that J.K. Rowling change the story to suit their preferences. They will seek out authors who write the types of books that they enjoy. This weird desire for gamers to have every game cater to what they want is really fucking weird. Frankly, entitlement is one of the ugliest traits a person can possess, and it's rampant in gaming lately. Which brings me to the next topic, which is the Battlefield 6 discussion. I watched an amazing video from the Kingard called Big Streamers Just Don't Get Battlefield. It's a wonderful video, and you should go watch it after this. But one of the main arguments that all the big streamers are making is that Battlefield 6 should have a Battle Royale mode. As if every other fucking FPS game doesn't already have a Battle Royale mode. Hell, Splitgate was an underdog success because they made a new and innovative title, and then they tried to make the next one bigger and better by introducing a BR, only for that title to flop because the people who were actually big fans of the first one now had to settle for a game that had its whole identity stripped away. So you alienated your biggest fans to try to appeal to a wider market, but then the wider market didn't even care to pick up the game because they're already playing other BRs like Apex Legends or Fortnite or whatever else. So by trying to appeal to everyone, now they had no niche, no unique soul, and the results pretty much spoke for themselves. And it was all for what? To chase trends. And chasing trends is why it seems like now every new FPS multiplayer title has a Battle Royale mode. So if that's what you're after, go play one of those titles. Let Battlefield be Battlefield and do its thing. Let it be the game that it wants to be. And if it doesn't have a Battle Royale, too fucking bad. Play what it does have and enjoy that, or go play COD, which has already been destroyed by trying to cater to every audience imaginable, only to now have no discernible soul or redeeming qualities left. It's just one giant online store to sell skins now with an online multiplayer attached. It's fucking pathetic how far COD has fallen in the pursuit of the almighty dollar. A huge reason Battlefield 6 is so fun and seems so promising is it's a throwback for people like me in their 30s who grew up in the COD heyday, who just want to relive some of that classic online multiplayer shooter fun. I freaking loved Modern Warfare and Black Ops 1 and 2 when I was a teenager, but by Advanced Warfare, the game no longer appealed to me. Did I scream from the rooftops that COD had to change? No, I just simply stopped buying the games. I also stopped gaming in general at the time, but still, I simply moved on because I didn't enjoy it. But Battlefield 6 reminded me that I do still love that type of game. It's just that developers stopped making them. Battlefield 6 looks super promising for a guy like me. If the streamers don't like it, fuck off and go play something else. There are tons of BRs. If the movement junkies don't like it, same thing. Go play a game like Apex Legends. There's tons of people who love that game for the movement. For me, I like what Battlefield 6 offers, at least in the beta, and I'm glad that they're sticking to making the game that they want to make because it actually appeals to me. And I'm sure it does to a lot of others as well. As for the loud vocal minority who want the game to cater to them, go find a game that does fit your needs. A big problem is for the streamers, they know that that game's going to be popular, so they just want to hop on to what's hot, not necessarily what they enjoy, and that's a true fucking shame. But if you're going to go that route and chase money instead of happiness, then don't ruin it for the rest of us. Play the game the way the devs want. And I know I've spoken a lot about letting the artists create the games that they want to, but that doesn't mean that all criticism and feedback is invalid. I should be clear about that. Some design choices simply are bad, and sometimes the teams behind the games recognize that. Like I said, Team Cherry already redid a couple boss fights as a result of feedback. And again, I brought up that I don't like that contact damage deals 2 damage in that game. I think it's stupid. So I would love to see that changed, but if it doesn't, oh well. You deal with the bad to get the good. In hard games, for me at least, the juice is worth the squeeze, but for some people it isn't, and that's fine. I mentioned Destiny 2, and I used to main that game, but eventually, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze anymore, so I simply moved on. They took the game in a direction I didn't like, and I just wanted to play endgame content, but it was always locked behind hundreds of hours of grind, and eventually it was just too much. No thank you. Anyways, that's it. Sound off below on your thoughts on the difficulty in games and people trying to force game studios to appeal to what they want, rather than seeking out games that offer things that they like. Thanks for watching if you're still here, like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, dislike it if you didn't, and come check me out on Twitch at itstizzle7 for more base takes. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.